Coming up on today's show, we have the latest news and rumors, and somebody went to Disney World. That's coming up today on Traveling with the Mouse. Welcome, everyone, to Traveling with the Mouse. This is episode 339 of Traveling with the Mouse. I am your host this week, and I am Jason. I am joined by two distinguished gentlemen. First, we have Adam.
What's up, everybody? It's a somber day today, as we're recording this.
Oh, yes.
This is the death date of Walt Disney.
If you were following me on Twitter, you saw that I overheard in line someone say, with 100% confidence, Walt Disney's alive, right?
Wow. He's 120 years old.
120 years old. Also, the other distinguished gentleman on the show today is John.
Oh, my siestas are getting shorter and shorter.
Oh,
You were asleep this whole time? That's pretty long because we took a week off.
Why are you sleeping so much, John?
Because it's dark all the time.
Shortest day of the year coming up.
Yes. I feel like whenever winter comes around, I must be part bear because I feel like hibernating.
Yeah, just wake me up when it's time for the Christmas break. That's what I really want to get here. Yeah. Can't get here fast enough.
My Christmas break starts today as this episode's released.
Wow.
You know, if it wasn't for the fact that Christmas is in December and my daughter's birthday is in December, the rest of December is pretty miserable in this area of the country. It's just like a wet, soggy sack of sadness.
Okay.
Cold.
Wow. How you doing, John? Are you doing okay?
I'm doing okay, but I mean, you know, December in Georgia is rainy and cold. And it's not very fun.
Cold in the mornings.
One way that you can get around that is you can hop in your car and drive down for the weekend and take in the balmy 84-degree weather of Orlando, Florida. And
Yeah,
I did just that.
That's one way to do it.
Well, if we have any listeners, I don't know, north of the Mason-Dixon line, they would disagree with you about cold, I'm sure.
Oh, I mean, that's just it. It's cold enough there that they at least get snow and stuff like that. I mean, here it's just like, you know, wet and sad.
Like Vermont. I hear it's lovely this time of year, all that snow and everything.
Well, let's dive into the news and maybe cheer John up. It sounds like he needs a little bit of help here. We're going to have to find some good stories today.
Ooh, only good stories? Yikes, that's going to be hard to find.
That is going to be hard to do.
It's going to be a short show.
How about we light a fire in your heart, John? Or light a fire in the park? We'll start with the big story of the week.
One little spark.
One little spark is all it takes. There is a new parade.
Figment's responsible.
Yes. There seems to be a new parade at the Magic Kingdom, a nighttime parade even, on December the 14th. Spotted rolling down Main Street were several emergency vehicles, including a couple of fire trucks. Not themed, seemed a little bit out of the time period.
Yeah, those were modern vehicles. No, didn't work on Main Street for me.
Yeah, that's a new Mainstreet vehicle.
Yeah, if I had been there and hopped on, would that have counted as a ride on a Main Street vehicle?
It's a vehicle on Main Street. I would have counted it.
It might have counted as a new way to get banned.
Yeah. So what's interesting is as we've learned more, there was a lot of speculation of like, oh, wow, what's going on? Because there's been fire type things before, but they've always made them go backstage. Like this broke show. We had fire trucks literally rolling up Main Street with guests in the park. And, you know, there were cast members and people were standing there like they were watching the parade. Like it really looked like they were just hanging out for the 3 p.m. parade. And turns out it was maybe just a small electrical fire near the castle at a junction box, and it was put out by a fire extinguisher. So by the time they rolled up, it was done.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised they actually brought them into the park, because it just doesn't seem like Disney if it's a small fire.
Well, I thought that the story was that the extinguisher didn't finish the job or something like that. Is that not right?
Well, the update from Disney was there was a small fire in Magic Kingdom. The fire was quickly extinguished by fire extinguishers. No one was hurt.
Oh, right.
Okay. But somebody had already called 911 by that point, I guess.
I wonder if it's anything within a certain radius of Cinderella Castle. They're like, you can't risk anything happening to the castle. So they just bring out anything that,
Bring out the big guns.
Right. Just to make sure.
It was a first. I mean, to my knowledge.
Yeah. I mean, there's always a fire truck on Main Street, just not a functioning one.
Right.
Well,
Maybe they should revisit that.
not always.
As I understand it, about 30 seconds after the last guest walks out of Magic Kingdom, there are vehicles on Main Street usually.
Right.
Getting it all ready for the next day.
Right. Yeah, and hosing down the streets and everything. Maybe that's the same fire truck. They just hose down the street every night. I don't know.
So that was the big exciting news of the week. Hopefully they don't see that again.
Scary.
So Magic Kingdom is on fire.
It's on fire. The next story I wanted to bring up is that our illustrious leader, Bob Chapek, Cheapskate, whatever, Dr. Evil.
Yeah. All the above. Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently in a new interview has claimed that he doesn't want to be seen as a bean counter, an outsider.
He resents his reputation.
A cost cutter, a number cruncher. He wants to be seen as a creative.
There's a reason you have that reputation.
Well, I mean, all we have seen associated, at least with him so far, is stuff costing more. So that's why people think of him that way. Now, maybe this would have happened no matter who was there. I don't know that for a fact, but that's the whole reason. I mean, he should expect this sort of reputation considering what's happened. So.
Yeah. I'll get to my trip report here in a little bit, but I was at one point standing outside of Toy Story Mania awaiting a Lightning Lane return time, and I had a few minutes because they wouldn't let me in. So I was standing at the cart where they were selling souvenirs. My son bought a ball, a Toy Story ball, using his green light card. He was standing there playing with it, and I was talking with the cast member, and I told her about our show. Maybe she's listening. I told her about Traveling with the Mouse, and she's like, oh, that sounds really interesting. Love to listen. She asked me how I liked Genie Plus. And I said, well, it sucks. And I said, as I also get there, I told her, I said, it's just me and my son today. And I'll go into more detail in my trip report. But I was like, with everything I've bought today, I've spent $80 extra I wouldn't have had to spend a year and a half ago. Yeah. She's like, wow. And I laid it all out. She's like, wow, I didn't really think about that. I'm like, yeah. She's like, well, it's Cheapskate Chapek, as we call him.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, go complain. Go complain to guest services. The more people complain, the more we can get rid of some of these stupid systems they've come up with. So there was a lot of buzz on Twitter back when I think Mickey Views, Braden suggested that people complain to guest services. People like, don't waste their time. But cast member in the park saying, yeah, go to guest services and complain. That's a way to put it on their radar.
The best that would do, I think, though, is they're not going to abandon the system. There's just too much money in place involved in it. They might change it to some degree, but it's not going anywhere. I don't care who complains.
It needs tweaks.
I really don't.
I'll talk a little bit about the tweaks that were where it's fallen short in a little bit. But apparently Chapek is a creative. I think he's creative in figuring out ways to squeeze more money out of people. He's creative in coming up with ways to make his talent upset.
Yeah, sure.
So.
I mean, he's not creative at making us be able to palate the changes he's making.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
make it palatable.
He has not successfully presented this in a way that people are going to be happy with it. Unlike his predecessor, who actually still did some things that ended up costing the guests more, but it was not as, as we mentioned before, it was easier to swallow.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to sort of mention is, as I was sitting there during my day, and I had a great day, and I'll talk about how I think I leveraged Genie Plus to its advantage, but I was thinking about, I could have had a better version of this day a year and a half ago for $0 extra. Right. And I'm having a better day than I would have if it was all standby lines probably, but for like $80. And so before with Iger, yeah, I was paying more as time went on, but it was incremental. It was like, oh, I remember whenever Pop Century or whatever, we were like, oh, we're never going to see that below 100 again. It's now 129, and then it would go up to 139, and we would just keep stomaching those things. Or you would your annual pass went up a little bit in price, and it's marginal. But this went from 0 to like 80.
Yeah, for two people. Yeah,
for two people to have it's not a small amount. And it's not for anything new either. It's not like it went for 0 to 80 and I got a better experience or more stuff. I actually got less.
Yeah. I was just sitting here thinking he forgot to take the advice of Mary Poppins. A spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down.
Yeah. So that makes sense. Right.
I think the spoonful of sugar they handed me are these audio tales that I didn't bother to listen to or something. Maybe I still have them on my app.
I don't fully understand that.
You should fill your day listening to these audio tales. That was in my Genie suggestions. Like, don't go ride a ride. Don't go eat anything. Don't go shopping. Listen to these audio things that we gave you with your purchase.
Yeah. I was kind of hoping you would at least have listened to one just to see what it was about. So we would at least know what it was.
Yeah, I was like, what is it? Where are the prayer trees? Are they actual things you can go look at as you're listening to this? Doesn't make sense.
Maybe.
At Animal Kingdom. Anyway, it was weird.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's somebody out there you could search that's done the audio stuff.
Oh, yeah. So the other thing that has been getting a lot of play is a lot of various news, most of it not very good, around the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser. And everything I've been hearing indicates that Disney's getting maybe a little worried.
Yeah.
Chapek, back at the earnings call, touted the fact that the first 3 months were booked in full. Well, turns out they weren't fully booked. There was a deposit that was put down. But now that deposit, it's time to come and pay in full. And people are canceling.
Yeah.
And so more and more reservations are popping back up for this Star Cruiser. And it doesn't help that they released this video of, I don't know what show this person's on. It's some ABC show, I think. Going around the Star Cruiser, seeing the different places. Yeah. And, I mean, there was things that I saw people commenting, like he was walking down the hallway of the... where the rooms are, and they're like, the ceiling's just like plain drywall, which normally I would say that's fine, but it's a $6,000 2-day event, so do better there. The bar was
Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
When did they have drywall in Star Wars?
Yeah. Anyway. No drywall. Someone else commented that it's like this was built by someone who just watched the Star Wars holiday special, like the whole hotel, and they just that's their source material, and that's the only thing they've ever watched.
Yeah, whoever wrote that promo was the same person, because that little promo video was the cheesiest thing I've ever seen in my life. It was so weird, and they deleted that video within a day or two of posting it. It was so...
Oh, it's no longer available?
Oh, yeah, it got so much negative reviews. It was ratioed so bad. They didn't just... They completely deleted it. Like, if you go there, it's like video not found. They pulled it off the internet. Yeah. And this is
even
the
news sites,
this was supposed to sell the hotel, and they pulled it. I think,
but I don't blame them. I don't.
Well, it was a poor attempt at selling the hotel. I mean, it just didn't seem like they put much effort into it.
It was. I mean, Disney is. I'm used to kind of the cheesy promo video stuff, especially if you watch the Christmas parade and all that stuff. It's just a big commercial, and they do silly stuff. This was so bad. It was beyond. I watched the whole thing, and before it got taken down.
Did you book after you watched
No.
it?
It was like, what is this? First of all, the actor from the Goldbergs is so overacting that thing, and then the shots when he's watching I forgot who it was singing. It's like the weirdest look he gives. It's just so. It's like, what? This is so weird. It didn't make any sense. Yeah.
I watched it, but it did nothing for me, so therefore
It's so weird.
I haven't watched it again, and now I can't.
A lot of people were also complaining about the what do you call it, like the control room of the ship and how modern it looked compared to like Star Wars is usually like stuff's all beat up and it's a used universe, Star Wars, so everything looks like Star Trek is what they were kind of saying. It looked too pristine to be a Star Wars ship.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think there are some people who they were excited about this. They got to looking at how much it's going to cost them and how soon, and then they saw stuff like this, and they're like, you know what? Maybe I don't want to be the guinea pig.
Right.
I'm canceling.
Yeah, I think that's what happened. Everyone jumped on it to get that deposit in to say, let me hold my spot, just see more about it. And then they saw more about it, and they're like, no thanks.
Which is sad, because they could have built something really cool and interesting, and I feel like they could have probably done it at a lower price point. They probably didn't need to spend all of what they did in this hotel, and more people would have done it. I just think they thought there's no way people aren't going to just pay whatever for this experience. And I think it got a little away from them.
I got a question. The first sailing was sometime in March, right? I don't remember the exact date.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So who in the world's was due already?
It's 90 days in advance. You got to pay in full.
90 days in advance?
I believe so, yeah.
I'm just trying to think what that is compared to the cruise line, because I know 90 days in advance. I guess you have to pay in full if you want to start booking stuff on the cruise, so you have to have it paid in full by 90 days in advance for that reason. But I didn't think it was required to have it paid in full if you just wanted to be on it, I guess.
Yeah, there are some deposits that are coming due, and so people are canceling.
Hmm.
Anyways, let's talk about something they did where they did something themed pretty well. And this is going to sound a little weird. I don't know if you guys saw this or saw the tour. It's kind of weird that someone went and did a video tour of this. But have you seen the updated baby care center at the Magic Kingdom?
No.
Yeah, it reopened with a theme to Alice in Wonderland, and it is really well done. It might be one of the best themed spaces they've made in a while.
This is probably the only way I'm going to see it, because I definitely don't plan on having any reasons to go in there anymore.
I watched the tour, and it was weird to watch somebody touring the baby, but like they put a lot of detail in here, and I was like, oh.
Wow.
That is impressive.
I still prefer Epcot's Baby Care Center, from what I remember.
Like they even did the knobs on the like cabinets are little rabbits. Like it's better themed than some of the new hotels they've.
Yeah, pretty good.
All right, so there's a positive, Disney. Good job.
It's very well themed. I would say that's a good job on Disney.
So the next big news story. Let's go to the West Coast. Genie Plus has descended upon Disneyland. It was a pretty disastrous opening day for Genie Plus, where nothing worked. But it seems to be working now, and I think it's worth mentioning some of the differences we're seeing at Genie Plus and Lightning Lane at Disneyland. First and foremost, Genie Plus at Disneyland costs $20 per person per day, but it comes with PhotoPass photos. Genie Plus at Disneyland does not add text to your purchase. Genie Plus at Disneyland does not allow you to make any selections until you've tapped into the park, unlike at Disney World where you can start making selections at 7 a.m. Genie Plus at Disneyland also only has 3 individual lightning lanes that you pay per ride. And unlike at Disney World, those individual lightning lanes, you cannot choose a return window of your choosing. You can only choose the next return time when you book it. So there are differences.
So they made one change that was better and one that was worse.
They just can't keep it consistent between the two parks. It's got to be different.
So the three lightning lanes are. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Rise of the Resistance.
Yes, that's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it between both parks?
Yes, between both parks, there's only 3
Radiator
individual.
Springs.
Radiator Springs is the second one.
And is Spider-Man, or are they not doing lightning lane for?
Yep, Web Slingers, a Spider-Man adventure is the third.
So, and those are all logical choices for out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, did the genie eat the tourists?
Nothing worked. I get your Jurassic Park reference.
I mean, he said because nothing worked earlier. I thought that's the first thing I thought of.
Yeah.
When Pirates of the Caribbean breaks down, the pirates don't eat the tourists. Yeah.
But not a good launch on the West Coast. Had to do a lot of refunding from what I saw.
Yeah, it was a little rough. And I have one last story for us before we dive into a trip report. This is a positive, and it's not. I'm going to be on a cruise at this time. Adam, you might be at Disney World. Maybe you'll stay New Year's Eve, because they are, in fact, going to shoot off the fireworks, the New Year's Eve fireworks at Epcot and Magic Kingdom this New Year's Eve.
Mm-hmm.
The New Year's countdown fireworks, as well as whatever the one at Magic Kingdom's called, are going to happen.
So they didn't do it last year, obviously, because of COVID, of course.
Correct.
So this year...
Well, Fantasy in the Sky will be at Magic Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Fantasy in the Sky?
Mm-hmm.
Is what they're going to do? I mean, that's like digging way back.
Fantasy in the Sky is going to run on December 30th as well. So I'll be there on December 30th.
It'll be interesting.
I was going to say, isn't that a show from like 30 years ago at this point? If that's the name of it? That's what it used to be called.
Maybe they relegated it to just the New Year's Eve. What do they call the 4th of July one? Is there a specific name for it?
Okay, so we're going to be up late on December 30th, Adam, if you're there. So Enchantment will be performed at 6:30 p.m. on the 30th, and then Fantasy in the Sky will be performed at 11:50 p.m. We going to make it to both?
Oh, boy. Did you make it to both on your trip? I guess we'll find out.
We'll find out. So, yeah, that seems to be the latest in the news. Did you all see any other things that caught your eye from the Disney news this week before we dive into a exciting trip report?
Monorail Yellow.
I was going to say, Monorail Yellow caught Adam's eye because it's the monorail.
Yes. Speaking of the monorail, since you went, I'm surprised you guys didn't jump on this story about the track switch malfunctioning and causing huge delays on the Magic Kingdom line.
You know, I think it's just not even news anymore when the monorail's not working.
Right. Last time I checked, the Skyliner's been running pretty well for quite some time now.
Yeah, they're due for another collision on the Skyliner. Just now that you've said that.
Yeah, I know. Now that I brought it up, there's probably going to be one tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah. Wait a minute. What was the only station that hasn't had one yet? The Hollywood Studios line?
No, that one.
It had one. No. Oh no, the Pop Century line.
Yeah.
Right.
There it goes. You just jinxed it. Pop Century line.
Let's get to the trip.
Let's get to the trip.
So last time we had a show, I mentioned I was thinking about going down to Disney, and I said I probably wasn't going to. Well, I did.
You did.
I did. So on Thursday of last week, I booked a trip for Friday through Sunday. This was an impromptu-ish trip. I was wanting to go down, because the Every Ride Challenge was going on, the raising money for Give Kids the World, maybe see some folks. I wanted to go down, maybe see the fireworks, just relax a little bit. My wife was unable to go, so it was just myself and my son that went. I booked a room at a Waterview outer building, Coronado Springs, using a pass holder rate. I had park reservations for Saturday at Hollywood Studios, and for Sunday we ended up doing Animal Kingdom. So I'll start with the room. I was on the phone with you all as I arrived Friday night. I had never stayed at the outer buildings of Coronado Springs. I know y'all have. I have not. I've always stayed at the glorious Grand Destino Hotel. I got a Casitas, which is in the very back of the resort. The positive I'll say about my room is that it had a great view of the tower, the beautiful tower, right out the way. The room size is fantastic for a moderate. The accoutrements are nice. Of the other moderates I've stayed at, because I would call, Grand Destino Tower like a mod lux, like this is the actual moderate room. It's the best moderate room I've stayed at. It's better than Port Orleans. Port Orleans kind of seemed old and dingy, so it was better than that. What else is considered a moderate even? Caribbean Beach, yeah. Caribbean's a nice
you've only
property.
Stayed Pirate there, though, right?
No, I've stayed both.
Okay.
I think Caribbean's still a smaller room, still not as good.
Old room. Talk about old rooms. Caribbean Beach has the oldest. They're awful. Yeah. Just saying.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they started refurbishing those.
They are, but they still are terrible to me. But
yeah. So I would stay at Coronado Springs. It's still my recommendation for maybe my favorite hotel overall. It was a decent room. We walked in, got settled. It was about midnight. So at midnight, I went ahead and purchased Genie Plus for my next day. So I already had it purchased. Before I went to sleep, I had already spent $34 for myself and my son for the next day to be able to skip some lines. Any questions about the room? Thoughts there?
Didn't you say they didn't put your name on the TV screen?
It was not on the screen when I arrived, but the next night it was on the screen.
Okay.
Yeah. I was gonna say, as far as getting from that side, I guess, or that section to the front, how long, or did you actually like drive to the front desk, or did you walk anytime went to the
a mobile check-in? I went in the front entrance like I was going to Grand Destino because that's what I'm used to, and the guard's like, no, you have to go through this side entrance. So I turned around and I went around the external drive. I went in like the side. There was no guard there or anything, and I was able to get in with my phone magic band thing, like the pass on my phone, my Magic Mobile. I could not get my Magic Band to open the gate, but that opened the gate. And then you drive all the way around and park behind the Casitas. It was far. The next morning, I didn't bother to walk to try to get breakfast from the El Centro area because it just seemed far away. But later I'll talk about how I went to the pool. And I feel like being at the Casitas, I was just as far away from the dig site pool, maybe a little bit farther, but not that bad, as you are at the tower.
Yeah. It's just a big resort. It's big. It's spread out. There's a lot there. I remember when I stayed outer building, I drove to the front building. It's just too far of a walk. It was just like, no, don't bother.
It's far, but it's a pretty resort. It's beautiful. So beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it makes it easier with the 3 bridges in the middle. That makes it a little easier to get to.
Oh, yeah. Without the bridges, it would be a lot worse.
That's true. Guess it wasn't there when I was there back.
I know the Casitas where you stayed look pretty far away, but in comparison to the Ranchos, I still think the Ranchos are the furthest away. Yeah. That's one I've stayed in before.
And overall, it was a quiet room. You run into this with Disney depending on how old the buildings are. I remember being at Yacht Club, which is a really nice hotel, but I could basically hear the people next door the whole time. Like the walls were thin. Mm-hmm. Grand Destino, really, every time I've stayed at Grand Destino, I've never heard my neighbors ever. Mm-hmm. I maybe heard someone walking around on the floor above me once in the Coronado room, but I mean, there are other Disney rooms. I'm trying to remember, like at Pop, I feel like if somebody gets up before me and takes a shower in the room above me, I can hear it,
Oof, the mermaid rooms were bad. I remember hearing my neighbors over at Art of Animation.
So, room-wise, Coronado Springs, I would say if you can get a tower, the tower is the best. Go for the tower. But an outer building is also better than just about any other moderate that you're going to get. The only reason I would ever consider Caribbean Beach is if I was going to be there maybe a bit longer, I might consider Caribbean Beach, even though it's a lesser room. just so I could have the Skyliner. That would be the only reason to get it.
Mm-hmm.
I got you.
Makes a difference. Unless we're so far away that it was like a 30-minute walk, because that could happen.
Yeah. The Caribbean beach, you're not guaranteed to be near the Skyliner.
No. Or if you had, like I did, and you were near the Riviera Skyliner, you could actually take advantage of the Riviera's food and stuff like that as well.
Bar Riva.
Yeah.
True.
Just saying.
True.
So the plan was Hollywood Studios, woke up early. I was wanting to make full advantage of Genie, and I wanted to be able to give it a full, honest review. Right at 7, I made an amateur move, and I hit tip board. And I learned now you should already have your tip board up, because if you hit it at 7, Genie starts spinning about making your magical day. It starts building your itinerary. So it took it like 30 seconds, maybe almost a minute to build my itinerary. By the time I got there, I was trying to get Slinky Dog. My Slinky Dog was already out to 1 o'clock, 1:30 in the afternoon. I think it was 1:35 in the afternoon is what I booked for Slinky Dog, because I was about 1 minute late. So that was gone really fast.
The early times. Which 1:30 is still not too bad considering what you went through, I wouldn't think.
But here's my point. If you want to ride Slinky Dog, and if you want to plan a day at Hollywood Studios, you have to decide that at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's no,
sleeping in.
Sleeping in. And this is the thing about Disneyland. You can't book anything till the park opens. There was always something about Max Pass where it was really getting in line. It's not this maybe I think I will upgrade and do this. If you decided at 9 a.m. in the morning, okay, I'm going to get Genie Plus so I can skip lines. You're going to get Genie Plus and you're going to be like, what lines can I skip? They're all gone.
Or they're all late.
Yeah, I got Slinky Dog for 1:30. So what this means is that the next time I'm going to be able to book a Genie Plus is 11 a.m. because I have to wait for 2 hours after the park opens. So my original plan was I was hoping to get a 9 or 10 a.m. Slinky Dog so I could just start chaining them together. But now I'm stuck with, okay, I guess my first Genie Plus is at a 1:30. And then as soon as I booked that, I went to book individual Lightning Lane for Rise of the Resistance. So out of my wallet goes another, $40, right? I get a 1 o'clock in the afternoon time for Rise of the Resistance. Okay, well, at least my afternoon's stacked well. 1 to 2, 1:35 to 2:35, Slinky Dog. We get up. Hollywood Studios opens at 9 a.m., which means we can start riding at 8:30 because we were staying on property. We grab a quick breakfast at the McDonald's right there near Animal Kingdom. Head over, and I think I walk into the park around 7:40 a.m., 7:45 a.m. Park in preferred parking. I was thinking they were going to hold me, but no, I just walked right into the park. We go up Sunset Boulevard, and my son wants to ride Rock and Roller Coaster. And rather than holding people in a central place, they just have people sort of go to the ride they want to get to. They sort of hold them in a line that they're going to march them in just for that ride. So there was a line for Tower. There was a line for Rockin'. I'd say we were 20, 30 people back for that Rock and Roller Coaster line.
Mm-hmm.
So we stand there until 8:30. They don't actually march us in until 8:30 in the morning. And it was funny because I could hear people behind us, and I sort of felt bad because I tell they were new to Disney. And if it's your first time going to Disney and you're rope dropping Rock and Roller Coaster, that means you're probably going to be in for a long day later.
Right.
Because that's not going to get a wait for a little while. And they were literally right behind me, and they had someone go up and ask the cast member, how long when you open will the wait be from where we're standing? And they're like, you're going to get right on. Because they're 25 people back. I'm like, yeah, you're like the third
That's
car.
the first train. Yeah. I can say that's the first train, isn't it? Isn't it 15 rows?
Right. Don't even have to watch the pre-show.
Yeah. Yeah, so we walk in. The pre-show's just wide open. We get on the train. My son wants to do it again. So we walk right back on, do it again. He wants to do it again after we do that a third time. We walk back in. We wait for a couple of minutes, after the pre-show. You don't stop for the pre-show. You just walk straight through. And we did Rock and Roller Coaster 3 times in a row, right at 8:30 in the morning.
Yikes.
And I think he wanted to keep going, but I was like, listen, it's almost 9 a.m. or is right at 9 a.m. at this point. I'm like, the park is open, Andrew. If you want to ride Tower of Terror, let's go do it right now. He's like, well, I want a donut. I'm like, well, there's Joffrey's right at the exit. Let's go ride Tower of Terror.
Yeah, and then get a donut.
I think I walked up and they had already inflated the wait time to like 20, 25 minutes or something like that for Tower of Terror. Walked straight into the pre-show, watched the pre-show. There was a bit of a wait in the elevator room. We do Tower of Terror. We get our donuts like 9:15. So here's the thing. It's like, okay, now the park's open. I have a lightning lane at 1 o'clock and 1:30. Everybody's walking into the park.
Yeah.
I have to weigh my options of like, what do I want to do? Do I want to battle these crowds without any lightning lanes right now? Or do I just leave? Mm-hmm. And we chose to leave and go to the pool.
What was Runaway at that point? Just out of curiosity, did you look at it?
It wasn't that long, probably like 30 minutes, 40 minutes is what it was listed. I don't know how long it actually would have been, but there was a lot of people coming into the park right then, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So 30, 40 minutes. So we got 4 rides in the first 30 minutes of the park, right? 3 Rock-ins and a tower. And so it's 9:15 and Andrew and I are walking out of the park. I couldn't figure out where the exit even was because everybody was coming in and a plaid vest person comes by and is like, oh, here's the exit. Usually we don't have that much. It's kind of hard to get out at this point. And I'm like, yeah, we've already ridden 4 rides. We're ready to go home.
It's like we've already done what we want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we waltz right on out, get to the car, drive back to Coronado, put on our bathing suits. We get all said and done, it's like right around 10 o'clock when we're ready to go to the pool, which is right when the pool opens. We walk over to the dig site, and it's like, man, this is great. I've already fit in like 2 vacations. So my review of the Coronado Springs pool is, Yacht Club has a fantastic pool, but Yacht Club costs a fortune to stay there, right? Mm-hmm. So it is objectively the best pool. But like value-wise to pool, Coronado Springs pool may be my favorite.
That's pretty good.
It's huge. Great theming, like really good theming. The slide is good. Mm-hmm. The hot tub is the biggest hot tub on property. And the pool bar is outstanding. I think that the food there at that pool bar might be the best food at any of the pool bars I've had at Disney World. Mm-hmm. We went over there. My son wanted chips. They gave us 2 bags of free chips when I ordered my first drink over there. And then we went back to order lunch, and I got the grouper tacos, which were really good, and I got my son the pretzel bites. They gave him another 2 free bags of chips, so I got 4 bags of Lay's potato chips for free. They were fantastic. I saw that the bartender that I had liked from the last 3 times I'd gone to Coronado was there by the time I left. The drinks are good, the food's good, the service is good. It feels closer to where you actually are at the pool than even some of the other stuff. Like the Yacht Club pool bar, it's kind of not that convenient to get to when you're at that pool. You kind of have to walk out and around. I was thinking back to like Old Key West. The Gurgling Suitcase is kind of a not very adjacent to the pool. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, yeah. It just felt more cohesive. I don't know. Overall, I would just say that we spent maybe a little over 2 hours at the pool. My son did some of the activities, like they had the little people come out and do little games. He did the games. We had a great time. So it just really cemented in my mind that Coronado is a fantastic resort and we should just stay there all the time.
Yeah. I mean, I had been a fan of Coronado before Grand Destino.
Yeah.
So...
Although, if we keep telling people it's great, they're going to keep raising the prices there. So,
yeah, they already
possibly. Have. I mean, it's one though that people still don't really choose a lot because of they think of it as a business hotel for the most part.
It does have that reputation, and some people don't like it because the location. They feel like it's not close to anything, but
and I don't get that because I find it to be one of the easiest ones to get in and out of, and to most of the parks.
And it's the first hotel you get to off Western Way, so...
Right. That's what I'm saying. Right, I take if I pull out of Coronado, I take a right to go to Animal Kingdom. I take a left to go to and go just across the bridge, and I've got Epcot and Hollywood Studios entrances or ways to get there right there.
Yeah, not far. Yeah.
I mean, and you just got to get to World Drive to get to Magic Kingdom. I mean, I don't get it.
I mean, it's like any other moderate. If you aren't driving, though, and you're on the bus loop, it's a pain because there's like 6 stops in the bus loop before you even get out of the hotel. So
I think most guests take the bus, and that's why they feel like, these kind of resorts are...
So it's great if you drive. Let's put it that way.
Right. The bus is awful, I will say that. The bus is awful. Bus is awful everywhere, though. Gosh, they drive so slow.
it's just extra awful at a moderate when they're spread out like that, and they have 6 stops to go to.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so bad, especially on the way back if you're the last stop or one of the later stops. It is torture trying to wait that long to get off the bus,
Yeah.
Whenever you used to think it was all that bad at the Poly, but there's only like one stop at the Poly.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't wait for a bus and then, this is our bus, and the bus is full when it gets there.
Yeah, you don't run into that over there.
Yeah.
So we go to the pool. It's about noon. Around noon we finished eating. We go down the slide one more time. We play in the pool, and then I was like, okay, we got to get ready. We got to get back. We got fast passes, right? While we were at the pool at 11 a.m., I was able to pull another lightning lane. So I stacked in, I believe I put Toy Story Mania. Also, while I was there, I decided with my son that we were going to go to Epcot after Hollywood Studios, and I booked and paid for a 3:35 p.m. individual lightning lane for Remy's. Okay. And that was really the only way I could ride Remy's because I didn't have an Epcot fast pass, or Epcot boarding group. I couldn't get a boarding group. I didn't have an Epcot park pass. So I decided to use my second individual lightning lane on Remy's because it's new, and even though we had just tried it, I was like, all right, let's do this. I think that was $12 a person. So to give you a total here, I'm sitting at the pool. I've spent around $25 for Remy's. I spent around $40 for Rise. I spent $34 for Genie itself. Okay, so we're like almost at $100, right? For 2 people, and I have used none of it at noon. None of it.
You spent all that money, haven't gotten any value out of it.
And you've spent money at the pool and the lunch and...
Of course, And a donut, apparently.
And a donut.
And preferred parking.
And McDonald's.
And preferred parking.
Yeah. But that $100 has gotten me nothing so far.
Yeah.
And it's not 100. Like even if I had stayed at the park, I would have gotten anything. Right? This is the best I could have done. Unless, I guess at park at 11 a.m. I could have gotten another lightning lane for like Muppets Vision or something. I don't know. For immediate. Right. But
Or baseline.
Yeah, I know. It's like spend more money at baseline. Anyway.
Spend more money at baseline, yeah. So I didn't go to baseline because we left before they opened. So we waltzed back into the park. We waltzed back into Hollywood Studios. I already had the preferred parking, so I was able to just preferred park right on back. Mm-hmm. We waltzed right in. It was right about time for our Rise of the Resistance. We do Rise of the Resistance. While we're in line for Rise of the Resistance, another lightning lane window opens up for me. And so I actually grab a Star Tours that's in between my Rise of the Resistance and my Slinky Dog. Mm-hmm. Right? We go through Rise. This is my second time, I guess, going through that line because we had done a rider switch. Right as soon as I tap in on the individual lightning lane, we basically stop. Like the line was fairly long. It took maybe 10 minutes to get through the individual lightning lane line. The ride didn't break down. Kylo was on A mode, not B mode. Mm-hmm. I got through it. I was like, okay, that was worth it. Like, especially if I'd never done it before, you should spend the money on that.
Right.
You should pay for the Rise because it was a 155-minute wait when I got on, if you were doing standby. Not bad. Right. Get off that, go to Star Tours. Now, here's how Genie Plus works, right? So I have... at this point, technically 3 lightning lanes. And the rules are you have to wait 2 hours or until you tap into the lightning lane. The last lightning lane I booked was Star Tours. So that's the one that counts towards my rebooking window. So as soon as I tapped into Star Tours, I was able to book another lightning lane. And so I booked Soarin' at Epcot. for like, I forget what time. It was, 4 or 5 o'clock, somewhere around there, 4:30, 5 o'clock, right in the afternoon. So we ride Star Tours. My son does a little shopping. He got himself a pretty cool little pin that says Rise of the Resistance on it, using his green light card again, just spending his money away. With his pass holder discount, of course. And then we head over and ride Slinky Dog. The Slinky Dog Lightning Lane line went about as it always did. Very quick, walked right up. Line was super long. Then we went to Toy Story Mania. Same rules are in effect. You can only get there 5 minutes before your Lightning Lane window opens. And they were pretty strict about it, so that's why I was standing around talking about Chapek with the cast member while I waited for my Lightning Lane to open. We rode Toy Story Mania, had a good time, and then Skylinered our way over to Epcot. So, at the end of the day, so far, we did 4 rides in the morning without any Lightning Lanes, took a little break, came back, and now I've used an individual Lightning Lane and 3 regular Lightning Lanes, all in the span of like an hour and a half.
Okay, quick question here. Now, I know you didn't have anything to compare it to as far as rides goes, but Slinky Dog, in comparison to how long it took you to get on Lightning Lane versus, let's say, Fast Pass.
It was the same. It was actually a little faster because there was nobody in the Lightning Lane when I tapped in, but I'm sure that's not always the case. Like, I went straight to the merge point.
Okay, so close to the same is what you're feeling like, what you used to do for free.
Yeah, and I skipped a long line because I had to cut through because they had the standby line overflowing, down the path. So I had to, weave my way through those people. It was a long standby line.
Gotcha.
Makes sense.
And after having done 3 rock-ins earlier in the day, Slinky Dog was just a walk in the park. My son looks over at me while we get on Slinky Dog. He's like, my friend at school says that Slinky Dog is more intense than Rock and Roller Coaster, but they don't know what they're talking about.
Nice, yeah.
Precisely.
Well, he's an expert on Rock and Roller Coaster now, so.
He loves it. It's his favorite ride. Rock and Roller Coaster is his favorite ride.
Rock and Roller Coaster is intense for some other parks, much less. It's definitely the most intense one at Disney.
In case I didn't say it, my son is 6. He is barely tall enough to ride Rock and Roller Coaster, and he loves it.
Yeah, he's a thrill seeker.
So,
like I've said, if they would let her on, Livy would do it right now, and she's 3. So.
Right. Got to get a little more taller, I imagine.
Yeah.
A new experience for me, because we usually have 7 of us. We only had 2, so we got put on Skyliners with other people.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's got to be awkward.
It was. But we got on the Skyliner for Hollywood Studios, and at that point I had entered another window because it was 2 hours since I got on to Star Tours when I booked the Soarin'. So, we got on Star Tours, then I went and rode Slinky, and then I rode Mania. And so right as we were getting on the Skyliner, I had hit my 2-hour window. So up until this point, this is the first time I finally felt some of that Fast Pass magic come back. Test Track had been out of Lightning Lanes for a while. I had been checking. And it just so happened that I was refreshing just a few times right as it got on the Skyliner, and I saw it said that there was one available. But just because it says there was one available, by the time you click on it, it might be gone. It's not like the old Fast Pass system where it's holding it.
Right.
So I was like, oh, click, 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 and it let me book one, and I got a 5:30 Test Track, and so or 5:30 or 6. It was not that far into the future, like an hour and a half in the future. So I was like, oh wow, I just scored a Test Track, which was awesome. So
okay.
So I was like, okay, now the system's sort of working for me. I'm chaining these together. But the problem is I couldn't take any advantage of that, even if I stayed in the park in the morning. I set myself up because I was like, I want to ride Slinky Dog. I really want to ride Slinky Dog. So I booked Slinky Dog. So that's basically saying your day starts at 1:30 with Genie Plus. That's your day. That's when it starts. That's the first time. Then you get to start chaining them. We go to Epcot. We walk in, International Gateway, go over to Ratatouille. The virtual queue people, I bet they were upset because they're like, oh, I got up. I got my virtual queue. That line looked to be over an hour long over there for the virtual queue people. It was long.
Where was it backed to, just out of curiosity?
All the way out almost to the creperie. All through that switchback queue, almost completely full.
Interesting.
I was going to say, because I remember I got there at a somewhat popular time. And, occasionally there'd be people, walking up to that cast member to try to get it figured out when their time was. We ended up going in. It was like 30 minutes from that point. So that's why I was wondering how far back.
It was a long-looking line.
I bet if you're saying the Creperie, I'm thinking it was only 40 minutes, though. But still, that's a lot for getting a virtual queue.
Right. So I had individual lightning lane because I was deciding to go most expensive day ever, see what make Chapek happy.
Yeah, right.
As I was about to tap in, I saw there was a family of about 8, and they were trying to tap in, and the cast member's like, it says here you just have a virtual queue for this time, and the lady's like, I have a receipt. I spent $96 to ride this ride, and she was like arguing with him. He's like, perhaps you just bought Genie Plus. She's like, no, it was. And I was like, see, I feel so bad for these frontline cast members because this is the kind of crap they have to deal with because it's so freaking confusing. It's like, did you buy the individual lightning lane? Did you buy Genie? Did you get the virtual queue? Did you buy Genie Plus and book your thing? Like, how are you supposed to explain this to someone and then just tell them, like, they were trained to just be like, well, it's kind of your fault you didn't buy the right thing.
Which, they're not wrong, but it still makes it makes for an uncomfortable situation.
Right. But don't make it overly complicated.
A fun day for these people that are, like, that's 7 people that probably, they weren't regulars, I could tell, because she, is like digging through her purse for like a printout of a receipt of her Genie Plus purchase. And
people are thinking along the lines that they paid like almost $100, right, for their party, that this should be included, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of how they see it. Maybe they should just go to all of them being individual.
So that was one of the suggestions I was going to end with is like,
oh, sorry, didn't mean to steal your thunder.
Everything individual would suck, and it would make Chapek so happy, but it almost would put the barrier so high that fewer people would buy it, and the standby lines would just move.
Unless they reduce the price.
Well, I'm going to talk about on my last day when we went to Animal Kingdom, and I didn't get Genie Plus, and the Everest line moved great because almost nobody is spending money on that lightning lane because they're like, why would I pay to ride this? I'll just get in the line fast.
Yeah.
So,
makes sense.
Ride Ratatouille. We're on a nice pace. We're getting hungry, though. Getting a little cranky. So, I gave my son 2 options. I said, do you want to go to Regal Eagle, which would have been my choice, or Katsura Grill, because he likes the ramen there. Well, he chose Katsura Grill. Turns out that might have been our mistake. That might have been our undoing. First of all, walking through World Showcase, I don't know it's the last time I saw it that bad. I sent y'all some pictures. It was so packed. Like, I'm not even talking like COVID packed, like COVID era packed. It was pre-COVID insanity.
Yikes.
The lines for the booths, the Festival of the Holiday booths, were all the way full. All the switchbacks were full and then spilling out.
Yikes.
It was crazy. When we went to the Japan Pavilion, we went to Katsura Grill. One of the reasons I've always liked Katsura Grill is a lot of people don't even know it's there.
Right.
So they don't go there, and so it doesn't ever have a line.
Hidden.
The only line of the day I waited in this day, I waited 30 minutes to order at Katsura Grill. They had one cashier.
Oh, wow.
That was probably, staffing was probably the issue at the holiday booths, too. Most likely. That's why they were longer.
Probably. So I get the chicken cutlet curry, get my son the ramen, he likes edamame. He sits, he eats it, all's well, we're getting ready. I said, okay, I dropped my Soarin' Fast Pass and moved it to a later time because you can't modify them. You have to drop them and get a new one, which is different from before. I like the modify better.
Yes.
You should have a modify option, not just by dropping one. I want to just be able to modify. So drop it, move it to a later time. I'm like, okay, let's go get the test track. So we pack up, we start walking. We make it to about Germany, and my son says, I don't feel right. He has been fine all day, but all of a sudden he starts feeling odd, like stomach.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of stuff. So it's something he ate. He's going to end up being fine the next day. Like, something he ate, and I don't know what it was at Katsura Grill, but something he ate at Katsura Grill did not agree with him. But we sit for a minute. We try to say, is it just gas or is it something like that? And he loves Test Track. He's like, I'll power on. Let's keep going. So we go. We walk all the way to Test Track with a little bit of complaining from him. He's really trying to power through. He's really trying to push through, I could tell. I thought maybe it was just gas or something. We tap it at Test Track. We get to the dots right before the car design room. And I look down and he's like really upset. And I'm like, do we need to go? And that's when I knew he wasn't feeling well. He's like, yes, I don't want to ride Test Track. I want to go to the hotel. Like, when he gives up Test Track,
yeah,
you know it's bad. So I go out the little side door, told them that we were going to the bathroom. They said, okay, just come back to the side door and knock, and we'll put you right back in the line. It's like, oh, well, maybe I'll use that trick later.
Mental note.
Mental note.
Yeah.
And remember, I parked in the preferred parking of Hollywood Studios.
Ooh, yeah. Oh,
and
man.
he's like, I don't want to ride anything. I was like, can you ride the Skyliner? He's like, I don't want to ride the Skyliner.
Oh, man.
I think he doesn't want to get someone sick if he's actually sick, and he also doesn't want to feel sicker. So I pick him up. He's 6. He's not light.
Right.
And I carry him from Test Track to the parking lot at Hollywood Studios.
Walking.
I was going to say, this is the reason why I think a lot of people still like to at least get or take a stroller up until about 10.
Right.
I'm serious. I see it.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah, no, I wish I'd had a stroller because that would have made my life so much better. So one of the reasons I went was I really wanted to see the fireworks shows. And Andrew, my son, and I, we were talking about trying to make it to both. And then we had just decided we're just going to watch Harmonious. We're going to just skip Enchantment. We're going to do Harmonious. But this put a damper on we're not going to see the fireworks, which I was fine with. I just wanted my son to be okay. So I have yet to see the nighttime spectaculars. I will later this month. So I don't have a review yet. That sort of prevented us from being able to provide a review. And that's the thing, is I feel like I can't. I think Harmonious looks pretty good. I think Enchantment seems like a fine show, but if you watch it right next to Happily Ever After, it's not even in the same league, in my opinion.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I am willing to change my mind when I see it in person.
Gotcha.
Right? I feel like until I've seen it in person, I can't put my final opinion down, because I think some of my Happily Ever After love might be because of how great it is in person, and then when I watch it in video, I'm thinking back to the experience of being in person, because it's not the same, even on video. So I feel like I just need to go in there and experience it and see if maybe that changes my mind. But I didn't. So we went back to the hotel, and I was actually asleep by like 9:30 before Harmonious even started. So
Right. Well, you got a good night's rest.
yeah, it was a long day, and even though we got cut short, it was like 6:30 whenever he started feeling bad. We got quite a bit done with our Genie Plus, all in the afternoon, and we were set up nicely. Like, we had that Test Track, we had the Soarin' already set up, and I was already pulling us another Fast Pass for, like, Spaceship Earth or something. I could have, everything else at Epcot, I could have gotten a Lightning Lane for easily.
Yeah.
So we could have really cleaned up there. If he hadn't started feeling bad, we probably could have cleaned up the rest of the rides we wanted to ride. It still had time left over before Harmonious. So
yeah,
we did that for that day. And so I'll stop here for like a review of Genie Plus, because the next day I didn't pay for it. It was a half day. My feeling was that if I had never used Fast Pass before, I would have probably left that day feeling like, you know what? I got my money's worth. I skipped a lot of people. That wasn't too bad. That's okay. But I had used Fast Pass, and I had used it not that long ago, and I didn't have to pay anything for it. And that's why it really got on my nerves. There are a lot of things that get on my nerves about the system in general, like you can't pick a window, you can't modify what you picked. you really have to decide and do the 2-hour rule. There's a lot of things that they could tweak that they probably will that's going to make it better, just like they did with FastPass Plus. Like, it's not that... You can't do it quite the same way as FastPass Plus. Like, all of that's tweakable. But the biggest thing that still hung in my head was like, okay, I got my money's worth, but that was $80 I didn't have to spend 2 years ago.
Yeah. And that's for a party of 2. If you have 4, it's double that.
Yeah. So, like I said, it was like probably $90. So, for 2 people, for your family, party of 4, to do that same day, you're getting close to $200.
Right. It's crazy.
And to summarize, my purchases were one of the most expensive ones. I bought Rise of the Resistance, I bought Ratatouille, and I bought the Genie Plus. And I think that's not an unreasonable thing to sort of compare to, because a lot of people who are going to go one time only are going to want to buy Rise of the Resistance and Ratatouille because they're the 2 newest rides, and they're going to buy Genie Plus.
I think, though, if I'm going, say, a reasonable amount of days, and I know I'm not going to have to cram a lot of stuff in, though, right? I'm going to feel confident I'm going to get a boarding group for Remy if I really want to do Remy. And as far as Rise goes, that's the one I'm probably going to pay for sure, if I'm in that group.
Well, so the thing is after seeing that line for Remy, an early boarding group would work, but an afternoon boarding group,
well,
I just don't know if I would wait an hour to ride Remy.
That much for that ride?
Yeah, it's not worth not worth it, yeah.
I don't think it was going to quite reach an hour, though, personally. I mean, I know, because I know based on where you said, I mean, I don't think it was going to reach an hour. I'm thinking it was only going to be a bit more like 40 based on that, because I don't feel like that. I feel like that's going to move relatively quick from where that's backed up to. It's not going to stay that way for long. It might depend on how many lightning lanes they had, which I would think that number would be not like a real high number for that attraction. But it is new, so I don't know. Maybe it was more than I think.
Maybe it'll go down once Guardians opens, but like, I'm kind of glad that I went during the pass holder preview so that I could see the standby queue, because it is a really nice standby queue, but I don't really want to stand by in that queue.
Now that you've done the ride, yeah.
Well, I mean, the minute Guardians is scheduled for this summer, right, or this coming summer. So the minute that's open, that's definitely going to be the boarding option, right? Like Remy's is no longer going to be.
And I don't want to disparage Remy's. It's a good ride. It's just the bad taste in our mouth is that Disney is trying to push it like it's an e-ticket ride when it never was meant to be an e-ticket ride.
I don't know if I would go that far, but it's not on the same level as some of the other e-tickets, especially, and not only that, it's new to this park, but it's not really a new ride.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, which is a better ride in your opinion? And I think this is subjective because I know some people would probably disagree with my opinion on this. Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway or Ratatouille?
Runaway.
Runaway Railway, I think, is a hands down better ride.
Yeah.
I mean, Runaway Railway is a very fun experience. In some ways, I could rival it with Rise even. I mean, I don't know. Some people might think that sounds crazy, but I could see that.
And Remy's is really good. It has good moments. I think that we talked about this when we wrote it. Adam and I agree with this. The best part of the ride is also the shortest part of the ride. So
the best part.
The part where you actually go into the like kitchen and everything sort of themed. It's actually, it's not like a screen.
Right.
Yeah, it gets a little screen heavy after that point. You're right.
Mm-hmm. The whole ride is screen heavy, really.
I do think it's pretty neat that point whenever you're under the one where it shows the wheels, and if you're able to look to where the wheels are are moving while you're moving. Yeah,
that's good, and you feel the heat of the fire above you, and it's a good ride. I just feel like they are setting an expectation that it can't hit with the way that they're pricing it and virtual queuing it and all that stuff.
Yeah, once enough people ride it, they're going to be like, okay, well, it's not worth paying for. And by then, like you said, Guardians will be open and it'll take the paid option.
Yeah, I mean, I paid for it because it was new. But in general, if in most days, if I only get to pick two in that sort of same loop, I would probably pick Rise and Mickey and Minnie's to be my paid fast passes. And I probably wouldn't pay for Mickey and Minnie's. I would only pay for Mickey and Minnie's if the line was like over an hour.
Now, it will make things interesting unless they do another tweak to this system, because we know as soon as Guardians opens, not only is it going to get the boarding groups, it's going to have an individual Lightning Lane. And so the two will be Remy's and Guardians, so though that's going to push Frozen into the regular Lightning Lane, how that's going to disperse those out.
Yeah.
What's going to change there?
Yeah, they'll just take the virtual queue away from Remy, so it'll go standby, right?
I would think so, yeah. I mean, it'll still have the individual Lightning Lane, I would think. But I'm saying Frozen will be in the regular Lightning Lane pool at that point, which will change that dynamic.
Yeah, it might make it more likely that you should buy Genie Plus if you're doing an Epcot day, because right now, the main thing you're doing when you buy Genie Plus at Epcot is you're paying $15 a person to ride Test Track. Right. None of the other lines typically get that long. I mean, Soarin', yeah. I mean, Soarin', they could take you straight to the front of the line and you still wait 30 minutes because it takes 30 minutes to load the ride. So
right. It doesn't change anything. Is what you're trying to say there. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll go to my last day. So my last day, we get up. I really tried to get my son up early. He was like, I don't want to get up. And finally, he's like, okay, I want to get up because I want to rope drop. So we do barely get up. We get up in time. We pack up everything. We get in the car. And we rope drop Animal Kingdom because he wants to ride Flight of Passage. It's not that he just wants to ride Flight of Passage. He wants to go to the shop at the end of Flight of Passage because he wants to buy something.
Yeah.
So Animal Kingdom opened at 8, which meant that I could get in at 7:30 because I was on property. I think we rolled in around 7:15, maybe 7:10 is when I walked in the park. 7:15. By the time I got to the line for Flight of Passage, I was all the way down halfway to Africa on the bridge. Moved fairly fast. I think I got in line at 7:30, right? So by the time we got over there, we were in line at 7:30. The people behind me were the ones that had been to Disney before, but obviously hadn't been very recently, that were talking very loudly about Walt Disney still being alive. And the one guy that had ridden it before is like, I think this ride has it's like getting on a bike. It's real good. Last time I was here, I waited 4 hours for it. I'm like, oh Lord. I'm glad y'all learned to go to the rope.
Yeah.
But at one point during the line, after we had actually gotten to the main line, I forget where we were in the line, the people behind us, the lady was very loudly like, we were passing under the sign, and the sign, by the time we had passed under, it said 65 minutes. And they were like, do you think it's 60 minutes from here or from the back of the line? And I'm like, it's from the back of the line, but whatever. We get up there, and I look back at her. I was like, we'll get on this ride at between 8:05 and 8:10. She's like, is that your prediction? I said, yes. Sure enough, we get into the I said we wouldn't get on the ride. I said we'd be at the pre-show. We're there right behind me. They get into the pre-show room. I'm looking back. I was just standing there, and I look back. I catch her eye right as we're about to get on 8:05, and she gives me a thumbs up. And they were like, how did you know? And I'm like, I just know how long it takes to get on the ride from here.
Yeah.
Maybe just ask around.
Right. I have a podcast. That's why.
Yeah. I know when I'm standing right here how long it's going to take me to get on the ride.
Yeah. It's like I've studied this.
Yeah. So we get on the ride. So unlike the day before when I had 30 minutes before everybody else and I had 4 rides, three total rides on Rocket and 1 on Tower. We just used that entire time to get on Flight of Passage. By the time I got off, by the way, the Navi River Journey was like 50-minute wait. Mm-hmm. So they sell out of those Navi River Journey lightning lanes pretty quick. They don't sell out, but they get pretty late in the day pretty quick. So we do the shop. My son buys Banshee wings because he's just spending his money. That's why we use our green light card. He's going to learn. If he spends all of his money, he's not going to have any. But
not a sponsor. No, just kidding.
Yeah, they're kind of a sponsor. They're kind of a sponsor. They kind of paid for my trip to Disney World, but I worked for it. So
right. I was just kidding.
Yeah, but he spent his money, and then I went into the I always forget the name of what that place is right there that sells the drinks and the food because I just know about Satuli. But in the morning, that's the only thing open. It's like Pongu Pongu or something. Is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We got breakfast sandwich, French toast sticks, and I resisted the grog beer at 8:30 or whatever it was, 8:30 in the morning.
I was going to say, I think I've only gotten something from there once, and it was in the morning, and I actually got the cheesecake roll or whatever it was.
Yeah, the egg roll with like the cream cheese.
Cream cheese roll, yeah. So I got that, and that was pretty good, but I also got the grog beer.
Yeah.
At like
I was also going back that day. I was like, maybe I shouldn't do a grog beer at 8:30 on the day I'm going home. I mean, I want to say it's not a bad choice. I have at 9 o'clock in the morning gotten a grog beer from there in the past. No judgment.
Well, I don't remember if I said it in the trip report, but my last trip when we stayed at that house, just so happens we had gotten like a 6-bottle thing of Blue Moon the night before, and I ended up first thing in the morning getting like 2 of them before going to breakfast, just not to have as many to bring back.
There you go. Pack. That's the way to do it. Just get her done.
Yeah.
So
it worked out rather well.
Breakfast happens. The only other thing on the agenda is Expedition Everest. So we walk over to Everest. Line's not that long. I think it's listed 20. We probably waited 10. Ride it. Get off. So it's like, I want to ride it again. Still listed 20. It was a slightly longer line. Probably waited 10. We get off. Wants to ride it again. So we ride it 3 times in a row. This is a theme here. You get on a coaster, you got to ride it 3 times.
Oof. Wait, you didn't pay for it?
Did not pay for it. What? The last time I looked at it and I was like, okay, I had it open where I was like, okay, this last time, I think the 3rd time we waited more like 15, 20 minutes. And I was like, okay, if I paid from right here, I would get on the ride immediately. But I also was thinking, I don't really want to wait in this line again. So is he going to want to ride this a 4th time? Because if he's going to ride it a 4th time, I'm just going to pay for it so I don't have to wait again. But we rode it 3 times, and then I talked him into, like, because I decided I wanted to leave town by 2. I was like, let's go to Disney Springs. He's like, yeah, I want to go shopping at Disney Springs.
Lego store.
He does. The Lego store was so disappointing. So we finish up there. We walk out of Animal Kingdom. On the way out, we had some live music of people playing, Christmas songs, and I sent y'all a video of it.
Yeah, that was cool.
That might have been one of the happiest moments while I was there to see that live music, live entertainment. There was people doing the like bird stuff. Like, there was just a lot of entertainers out again, and I was like, yes, we need this. We need the entertainers back out.
Yeah. Nice.
I just really missed that. The bridge was open, so we left over the bridge, getting out of Animal Kingdom.
In the center, you mean?
Yes, in the center, we used the bridge. Mm-hmm. So the world is healing. We go to Disney Springs. I go to the World of Disney. Lord, if that isn't a madhouse.
Yeah.
I looked at the 50th anniversary stuff, and I didn't get anything. I really liked one of the hats. And I told you how my son's just like spending money like it's growing on trees over here. And I pick up the hat, and he's like, oh, Daddy, let's get matching hats. And I put it on, try it on. He puts it on, and he says, buy, 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 buy. That's what he says to me. And so then I pull it off, and I say, well, they're $45 a hat. And he just takes it off his head and puts it back on the shelf.
Never mind. Yeah.
Never mind. But I was kind of disappointed in some of the selection they had. I feel like a lot of people are still just like sucking all the good stuff away. And I was also a little disappointed in the Christmas selection. I really liked one sweater they had for Andrew, my son, but it was $65. Like, who's going to spend $65 on something that a 6-year-old's going to wear for 2 weeks?
Yeah,
like, there's a week and a half. He'd have to wear it every day. And still it wouldn't be worth it.
No. That's hilarious. Yeah, no.
The last thing I wanted to review before we close out is I did book a place that I always see available. It's one of those places that never seems to book through. And I was like, I want to get a sit-down lunch. And I booked, I wanted Italian because my son wanted pasta. I was between Enzo's Hideaway, which I've been to, which is great. Maria and Enzo's, which I also hear is great, but it was a Sunday brunch, or Terralina Crafted Italian. So I went with Terralina. My experience there was just, say, passable. I showed up and they didn't have my reservation because I booked it same day, and apparently Disney's system doesn't talk to their system on a regular cadence. So I had to show them my phone that I had a reservation, and then they sent me. I don't know why it mattered. The restaurant wasn't full. While I was sitting there, someone else said, I've been sitting here for 25 minutes and you still haven't sent me. So they didn't seem to have their act together there. I sat down, and I will say the service was prompt but brusque. Like, I sat down, and 15 seconds later, the waitress stops by and is like, are you ready to order? And I'm like, no. I literally just put my butt in this seat. Like, how? Like, are y'all all regulars here? You know, I don't even know what's on the menu.
Yeah.
So, but I end up getting a decent thing. I got a decent meal. The only thing that was disappointing is, you know, I feel like there's just not a good place there that, like, there's a couple of good Italian places, but they're not fresh pasta, which would make it better. My son got the fried ravioli. The bread was good, but it wasn't anything to go out of your way to seek. And I would say compared to Enzo's Hideaway, I liked Enzo's Hideaway way better. The one thing this place had was pizza, which I don't think Enzo's has. But all in all, I think Enzo's probably a better choice if you're going to pick.
Okay.
So I think that pretty much sums it up. We were out of town by 2. Very quick trip, but still crammed a lot in. Got to try out. I think I'm the first of us to try out Genie Plus. I sent y'all the day that Genie had planned for me at Animal Kingdom. It was not as egregious as other days we've seen people get planned for. But again, there's a lot of the same problems with just the Genie service that it assumed I would be there literally all day. And it tried to make me listen to a bunch of audio tales. But otherwise, okay. So it felt good. It helped refill my cup a little bit and got me excited about the end of the month because I'm actually going to get to see the fireworks. Anyway, so hopefully you get to come at the end of the month, Adam. If not, John, I will see you mid-January. I'm just really excited because I hadn't been in a couple months. I know my wife gets annoyed with all my Disney stuff, but I'm basically going to go 3 times in about a month. And that's pretty exciting for me. So
there you go. I'm looking forward to January. I'm getting to the point where I'm looking forward to it. For one thing, where we're staying, I'm really planning on, I want to do some parks, but I'm really planning on taking it easy for the most part during this.
Yeah, Animal Kingdom Lodge, I'm looking forward to that. I stayed at Kidani once. I'm really excited to stay in the main Animal Kingdom Lodge and also to stay there because when I stayed at Kidani, this was early in my Disney love. I didn't know what I was doing, and I did the bus, and that made it where we were like, Animal Kingdom sucks. It's so far, Lodge sucks. It's so far away from everything. But I feel like when you drive, it's really not that far if you're not on the bus. But yeah, I think that sort of wraps it up though for today. So if you want to find out more, we're always available on social media and other places. And how would you find us?
Well, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That is all at TWTM Podcast. We have a Spreadshirt store in which you can buy your exclusive TWTM merchandise. That is shop.spreadshirt.com/TWTM Podcast. And we also have a YouTube channel that you can find where, Adam?
You can find it on our website, travelingwiththemouse.com. You can find links to all that and more there. You can email us podcast@travelingwiththemouse.com. And if you want to book your own trip and need some help, you can reach out to our travel agent friend, Jill Dilbeck. Her email address is jilldilbeck@gmail.com. Reach out to her and she will help you book Disneyland, Disney World, Disney Cruise, Universal, all the above.
So, for Adam and John, I am Jason, and this has been Traveling with the Mouse, and we hope you will join us on our next trip.